Good evening and welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen Workshop. It is November 12th, 2020, and it is 6:30. Call the meeting to order. The prayer will be with Alderman No. The Pledge of Allegiance will be with Boy Scout Troop 340. First order of business Tuesday night will be the oath of office ceremonies for Alderman Coates, No. and Waldron. You should all have a copy of the minutes from the October 6th, 2020 and October 29th, 2020 special meeting. Presentations, we will have a certificate of appreciation at the meeting, and tonight we will have Michael Hogan come up and speak to us about driver's license kiosks. Sir, if you'd like to come up. Flip it on. Yep.
Good evening, Mayor Cole, and to the councilman. Thank you for having me out this evening. I guess about the last 2 or 3 years, we've been talking about trying to establish some type of partnership here in the Verne area with the state of Tennessee's Driver Services Division. I guess in 2012, the state decided to invest in what they call these self-service kiosks. The kiosks are similar to what we call like an ATM machine, which allows you to process certain transactions. But when I give these presentations, I really like to let you know what we do in the Driver Services Division. And the reason for that is most people think you just go in, you pay your money, you get a driver's license. But if you look at the history and behind what we do, you'll see why sometimes a little bit challenging when you go. You might hear these awful stories of people waiting a long time. But you'll see kind of what I'm going to explain today, how that works. And in the end, we're going to talk about the self-service kiosk and that process. So if you would, I got a presentation here. It's about 10 or 12 slides, so we'll try to get through in about 20 minutes, and I'll open up for any questions. So make sure I got that. Okay. So we always start off this one here. This is what we used to do when they first started issuing driver's license in 1937. This is what they do now. As you can see, and it's got my speed timer on here, when I go back, this right here gives you an idea of the little wagon, how it started out with a driver's license, but this is everything that you'll see at a driver service center. If you go back here, my goodness, got a speeder, sorry about that. Biggest thing now we have is the real ID, and I'm going to give you some little data on that, but you've probably heard of that. That's the new STAR driver's license you'll need next year, October the 1st, 2021. But back in 1937, this is what we did right here. We just issued driver's license. Now you come back to 2020. Every service you see to the right is what you'll see at a driver service center. The ones that are highlighted in red there, those are things that we've added over the years, but the core functions, those are the knowledge testing, skills testing, vision testing, screening, endorsements, all things that are related to a driver's license. Then when the General Assembly decided to add handguns that you can process at a driver service center, then you start looking at support selective service, young men turning age 18, register, motor voter. There was a federal law that passed in 1994 that requires that any place where you receive government services that you can also make application to vote. Then the motor voter law, which passed in 2016 in the state of Tennessee, was added to the driver service center. Organ tissue donation, anyone who would like to be an organ donor, come to the driver service center and you can actually register. Child support and truancy, anyone who fails to pay, a spouse, fails to pay the child support, guess what? We get contacted and we'll snatch those licenses, all right? And that's a federal mandate, not a state. And then, of course, truancy issues, and those are for individuals who fail to go to school. By law, then the state will take their license. All right. Yeah. Okay. Then, of course, in 1978, this is what we did to our system here. The only thing we had in 1978 was 2 functions. Now, if you look at all this information to the right, this is what our driver's license system does. It maintains all of this information, everything from driving to even there are some criminal fines that are also maintained in the driver's license system. And so when you start talking about when you come to the driver services, all of these things right here are taking place behind the scenes. If not at the actual driver service center, they're taking place over in my office on Central Avenue. Okay, now, this one here, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of that right there has to do with a driver's license. Operate a vehicle, operate a school bus, a child care van, operate a commercial motor vehicle, and rent a car. Everything else is what a driver's license is used for. So when people, again, come to get a driver's license, they're not coming just for the first 5, it's the other items. And that's about 25% of the usage of a driver's license. And that list continues to grow. But you can see over there everything from boarding a plane, which we're going to talk about real ID, open a bank account, applying for a job, students need in order to take the GED, SAT test, purchase alcohol, tobacco products. All of these things are what a driver's license is used for. So again, when you come to a center, not everyone's coming in for the first 5. In fact, that's probably the minority of the services that we offer. It's the other 15 to 20 items over to the right that you see. And so that always has an impact on some of our services. All right, so how do we deliver these services? The state of Tennessee has what they call 6 reinstatement offices and 3 express stations. Express station is used for what we call express transactions. Most of us in this room would go to an express station before we go to full service center. The reason for that, that's where you can do a renewal, a duplicate or replacement of driver's license, or where you can go apply for a real ID or maybe a handgun. Those express transactions for individuals who already have a credential. We have 46 full service centers across the state. We've opened up 2 here recently in July, adding that to 2 more express centers. We did that for real ID, but we also need it in the Middle Tennessee area. We have 46 county clerk partnerships across the state, 50 locations. The majority of those are up in East Tennessee. Of the 46, I believe East Tennessee has 24. The remaining 22 are spread out across the state in West Tennessee and a little bit here in Middle Tennessee. But East Tennessee has 24 of the 46. We have 36 cooperative driving training programs. These are programs that help the department by offering the knowledge and skills test outside. It's almost like a driver's ed program, but these are commercial schools. Then we have 66 commercial driver's license, what we call third party. These are schools where individuals who are applying for a CDL could go to these schools here as opposed to coming to the state. They learn how to drive a truck, they also attest them, and then they send the information to the department and we'll issue the license. And then what we have inside of our centers to help the public is 150 iPad, what we call kiosks. What an iPad kiosk is, it allows the customer to start the transaction before seeing an examiner, which expedites the process. This has been extremely helpful for us doing real ID, and the reason for that is it's less time at the counter with the examiner and more time you conducting a transaction yourself. All right, we have 39 kiosks, and again, across the state, we actually have 40, so where's that 40th one gonna go? That's coming up here to Laverne. Since we rolled this out in 2012, we've had a waiting list for the kiosks. It obviously became popular because of the fact that it's mobile, it's really self-manned. The only thing you have to do is change the paper in the kiosk. We can make changes from the office, so we'll just contact whoever's managing the kiosk and say, hey, we need you to shut it down for about 4 hours while we do these upgrades, and we usually do those after hours on the weekend. But it's a self-managed machine. It's just like an ATM machine. And I'm going to show you some of the services that we've added to it beyond what we have now. We have 65 self-service check-in kiosks at our driver service centers. And what are those? Prior to COVID, when someone comes to the center, instead of you seeing the examiner to be vetted to ask these questions, you could go to the self-service check-in and it would ask you a series of questions. And based on the service you're requesting, you'll be issued a ticket and you would automatically go see an examiner. And this will eliminate that interaction contact between you and the examiner. Our online, what we call e-services, we've expanded that. That is the product that we have where people can renew their license online. There are probably about 15 services you can do online. That's probably our biggest challenge, is getting that information out to the public. So instead of you having to come to a center, you can renew a license online, you can pay your reinstatement, you can do things like add your emergency contact information, handgun carry permits, you can start the application online. We now just offered where you can upload documents online, such as commercial driver's license, medical certifications. You can do that up online. If you have reinstatement documents, you can upload that online. So we have a lot of services you can do online that we just need to get out to the public. And then, of course, we have the mail-in on renewals for our non-commercial transactions. Now, during the COVID-19, we had to change the way we did business. And a lot of things we did was in response to the fact of practicing social distancing. So some of these things right here I'm going to lay out. These are the things we've done since March as far as providing services to the public. So the very first one there, expanded the validity period of the photo for a driver's license or ID. What does that mean? In the past, your photo on your driver's license was only good for one renewal cycle. So if we issued you a 5-year license, that photo was good for 10 years. It means that you could come one time, the first time you would renew, the second time you could do it online via mail, but the third time you would have to come in person to renew your license. What we did is we changed that and we opened up that period. So we have individuals who've probably got a 15-year photo out there that they're using now to renew their license. The purpose for doing that was to reduce traffic and so that the public wouldn't have to come to a center. They can do this online without having to come in. And this was one of the ways we combated COVID. We've increased in fact, during this period, starting March 12th, no, I take that back. It was March 20th, is when we kind of shut down because of COVID. Up until November the 1st, we increased our online activity by 184,000 transactions. Again, we've talked about allowing the public to upload the compliance documents, allowing commercial drivers to renew their CDLs online and medical certifications. When you look at, we have 200,000 CDL drivers across the state. 80% of them are required to have this medical certification. It used to be it was good for 2 years, but now with the different type of medical issues that happen, most of them have to do it within a year to 18 months. They have to come back in and submit that. So instead of bringing that traffic back to the center, we now allow them to do that online. We allow customers to schedule appointments, which has been huge for us. So now if you go to Driver Service Center, we have appointments set up out 90 days. So if you're coming there for a real ID, you can schedule an appointment. If you're coming there to take the knowledge test, you can schedule an appointment. Skills test, you can schedule an appointment. And then any other transactions you want to conduct, you can also schedule an appointment. And again, that's out for a 90-day period. Those usually take 15 minutes per transaction other than a skills test. So we'll get you in and out. We implemented what we call this e-ticketing. And what is e-ticketing? E-ticketing allows a person who has to do business with us to put themselves in line before they get to the Driver Service Center. So at 9 o'clock, we open this queue up. And for 1 hour, we allow as many people can go out there and get them an e-ticket. So if you get a ticket at 9:15, you have 2 hours to visit the center to be processed. So that doesn't mean you have to get up, go to the Driver Service Center, wait in line. You can do it from your home, and then we'll process you within 2 hours. And then, of course, the last one, we've posted our wait times online. So now the public can go out there and find out what is the average wait time at the centers. So, for instance, if I'm going to go to Murfreesboro Center and I see, well, they got probably about a 45-minute wait time, I can drive right down the street to McMinnville. They have a 20-minute wait time. And so that's real-time, up-to-date times for the centers. That's really been huge for us because, people, the more information they have, they can make better decisions. They don't have to go to certain centers. Okay. Now, self-service kiosks. So when we rolled out the kiosks in 2011, these are the transactions you could do. Renew a driver's license, replace a duplicate, and change your address. It was just 3 services. That was it for an ID and a driver's license. Since then, we've added other services to it. This was our last phase right here. And if you notice, these transactions here mirror what you can do online. So if someone doesn't have a computer at home, they can find one of our kiosks, and these are the things they can do. So the first, handgun carry permits. That was huge. We have about 705,000 handgun carry permits. That's enhanced and the lifetime. We saw the spike go up when we started offering the lifetime. Well, in order to get that, you would have to go to a school. Once you complete the school, bring the certificate to the center, and then we will take your picture, take your money, and bam, you'd go get your fingerprints, and if everything came back, we'll issue your handgun carry permit. Now, you can do that if you need to renew your handgun carry permit at a self-service kiosk before you have to come to the center, whether it's enhanced or it's a lifetime. You can request a duplicate handgun carry permit on the kiosk. Before, this could only be done at a driver service center. You can upgrade from an enhanced to a lifetime. Pay the $200 fee. With a credit card, we'll take your picture, do the background check, everything comes back. You never stepped foot in a driver service center, and you receive your permit in the mail. Allow the public to pay reinstatement fees. Now, you see where we run this a lot because this is one of those where during the month of January to May, you've probably heard where we have a lot of lines at our 6 reinstatement centers. And the reason for that is historically, when people get their income tax check back, guess what they do with it? If they have outstanding reinstatements, they come to centers and pay for it. And so you probably hear about lines at a driver service center. Well, what we've done here now is we say, well, look, you can do that online using a self-service kiosk. So you don't have to come to the center. And if you remember earlier, what do we do online? We allow them to upload the documents. So now if they upload the documents, that's saying that they've satisfied the citation, they can use the kiosk or online to pay the fee, and then we'll also reissue. So what does that mean? They don't have to come to the driver service center. If they've got the ability to do it at home, they never have to leave their home. Everything can be done outside the center. You can also, number two, the last one there was reinstatement after reissue. And then the last one is allow the public to make application to register to vote. All right? So what does that mean? Before, you would have to go to a driver service center, fill out the form. Now you can use a self-service kiosk. If you say, yes, I want to register to vote, it's going to take you to the state Secretary of State's website. You complete that information. They're going to verify with your records with the department, and you'll be issued your voter registration card from the Secretary of State. But you don't have to go to the center and conduct a transaction. You can do it from the kiosk. And then on the last one here is to allow the public to update their emergency contact information. We launched this out in 2014, and what this allows us to do is you can list up to 7 people in the event that there's an emergency, and the state will have that information. If law enforcement contacts us, then you can go out there and access that. We also have it out there too, where if you have some type of medical condition, and it doesn't say, and we did this for, I can't think what the community was, but if there is if you have a guardian, like for instance, mental health issues or something like that, they will be contacted in the event of if you don't have a family member. But you can also do it there as well. All right, and then this is going to finish us out right here talking about Real ID. I like to share this right here because this is real. This past year, if you haven't heard what Real ID is, back in 2005, the Congress established a commission, and it was the 9/11 Commission after what happened in 9/11. The terrorists that attacked the country on that day, they all had multiple IDs and driver's license. In fact, they each averaged about 4 or 5. They had obtained these from different states. So they went up the East Coast, and they would go to each state. And because each state establishes its own requirements for applying for a driver's license, they were able to establish identities in Boston, New York, New Jersey, Virginia. And so for each state, they had 5 different IDs. That's how they were able to compromise and get on the planes, all right? Various names for various reasons. So the 9/11 Commission came out and said, we have to find a process to standardize so we know whoever is applying for a driver's license, that they are who they say they are. So if you got state A doing it this way and state B doing it this way, that's fine for the purpose of driving. But if they're going to use that to fly, enter what they call a federal building or a nuclear plant, then we need to make sure we're using the same standardized process. And so that's what Real ID is. It just standardizes the issuance process. And what does it say? A person has to be a U.S. citizen or proof that they are a legal presence in the country. That's 1. 2, they're required to show proof of a Social Security number. Not just provide me the number, but you have to present a W-2, a Social Security card, paycheck stub. Those are things you have to bring. You just can't give me a number. It has to have something that has your actual name on it. So you bring that to the department. And then you have to show proof that you are a Tennessee resident or whatever state that you live in. So you bring these documents in, and guess what? We verify them. If you bring us a passport, we're going to verify your passport. If you bring us a Social Security number and card, we're going to verify it. And then we're going to verify your residency using the United States Postal Service. So this is what Real ID came about. And so the actual law went into effect in 2005. It was supposed to be fully implemented by 2017, but several administrations kind of kicked it down the road. Last year, it was supposed to go live this year. What happened? COVID. So COVID pushed it down, kicked it down the road 1 more year. So this is where we are now. All 50 states now, what they call Real ID compliant. That means that they've set the infrastructure up to issue the Real IDs, all right? They have exception process for those who can't qualify. And each state has said to DHS that we're ready to issue. So this right here is the state of Tennessee's number. We have 4.9 million valid drivers in the state of Tennessee. Of them, we have 3.2 million that do not have the Real ID. We have issued, since last year, 1 million licenses, real ID licenses. From July of last year to November 1st this year, we did 234,000. And here gives you a comparison. This year, even with COVID, we've issued an additional close to 40,000 more. So we're at 272. 44% of the licenses that we're issuing at the driver service centers are real ID. Now, we have almost 1 year left, less than probably about 10 months. Between now and then, we've got to get those 3.2 million, those who want it, we've got to get them in our driver service centers to apply for it. At the rate we're going now, we're doing about 44%. So we anticipate another 1.4 million will apply for the license. All right. And I think I did that in a good 20 minutes. So I'll open up now if anybody has any questions.
No, I don't have a question, but I do want to thank you for all your help. I know you, as well as Representative Sparks and State Senator Don White, we've all been kind of working together on this over the last year and a half. So I just want to thank you on behalf of our board and our residents for all of that work together.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm looking forward to the partnership. All right, more questions?
I used the one in Smyrna just a few months ago, and
Yes.
I was in and out quick. Everything worked good.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
Worked real good. I was in and out in less than 10 minutes.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Anyone else? All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Moving on, we will have departmental reports, and then old business, second reading ordinance 2020-15, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map for tax map 14, parcel 50, consisting of approximately 15.4 acres located at 470 Dick Buchanan Street, from an I3 special use industrial zoning district to an I2 heavy industrial zoning district. This received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on August 25th, 2020, and there will be a public hearing on November 17th at 6:30. Any questions on this? Okay, seeing none, moving on to number 6, second reading ordinance 2020-16, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 general fund budget. Any questions? Number 7, second reading ordinance 2020-17, an ordinance to amend Title IX of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding transient vendors and door-to-door solicitation. Any questions on this? And then number 8, first reading ordinance 2020-18, an ordinance to amend the impact fees in the City of Laverne. And I know there was a lot of discussion at the last meeting on this, and Mr. Brown had sent out some spreadsheets with percentages to the board. I'll open the floor up if anyone wants to discuss this.
Well, I'd ask Bruce, I was confused about the email about, are we supposed to email back or wait until this meeting to discuss it?
Didn't I respond to you?
No, sir.
I thought I did.
Well, not in, I didn't get a yes or no answer.
Well, in a roundabout way, I think I said, yes, we really need to know what the board wants the numbers to be so that we can plug them into this ordinance.
Right, I didn't know if you meant
let's-
for us to email them to you or wait until tonight and discuss them.
Well, either way, really, it doesn't matter. But by Tuesday, you know, we need to be able to decide on what numbers everybody wants to use. Now, obviously, you know, we'll probably get differing opinions, so I'm not sure how we'll write that up for Tuesday night. But what is in this draft ordinance currently is the maximum numbers that we can charge. So more than likely, what we'll do is we'll add another column. It's under Section 5 of the ordinance itself. What we'll probably do is add another column in there, and it says, you know, the fee per unit will be at whatever percentage. That way, everybody will be able to see what those individual numbers will be. But we'll need to pick whatever numbers we want for each category in order to approve it on the budget on Tuesday night.
I've thought about this quite a bit, and I don't want to be the elephant in the room, but I'll go for it. But I think after paying $50,000 for that, is that right, Adam? $50,000 for that deal, and that guy, those people did their due diligence and put this together. And after some of the questions that were asked to him, specifically the one that I asked, and I think that with the amount of building that is pretty much left in our city, I think that we need to go for the fence on this myself, and I'll tell you why. I think that it would kind of be for lack of better words, I think it would be a slap in the face to the citizens, to the park and recs, to public works, to fire and police. For over the last 20 years, that all those ones I just said have not been able to take advantage of those things because they were not raised for 20 years. And I think we need to go ahead and bring it up to date, bring it up to snuff, and go with it. Yes, we're in some tough times, but I talked to some people that lives on the other side of the interstate in the big housing places, and they made some statements to me that kind of I took interest in. They told me, they said, Steve, we didn't move to Laverne. We didn't even know that neighborhood was in Laverne. We moved out here for that neighborhood. And I think if we can keep them housings over there to big homes and nice lots, people are going to come. It's close to everything, and I think that we need to let those groups that I just mentioned, I think we need to let them start reaping some of the benefits. And I'm not picking on Garland, but I'm going to use him as an example. If he needs this machine that we're talking about tonight, had those impact fees been in place all those years, that thing would have been bought and paid for many times over. So that's my opinion.
I think that's a pretty aggressive pricing structure, especially when you consider the median income for a family in Laverne is not the same as the ones that live in those houses. Now, true, we need to be fair to everyone, but I don't believe that we need to make up for 20 years of lost time by making such a huge financial impact, taking food off the families of those that are not at that income level. So I think that we need to be conservative in the way that we think about how we approach this, because we don't want to cripple the growth in Laverne or the development of Laverne, either one. And I think those prices that are 100% are really aggressive prices.
Anyone else?
I'll jump in. I think to go on the lesser is not good, and go to the maximum is not good neither. I'm for more something in the middle.
I'd be happy either way. I can see the logic on getting it to the max, and I can see it getting it to the low and to the middle. So I'm happy either way. I can see the pros and cons either way. So I'm happy with the majority of this board voting how they're going to vote.
So it's ultimately left up to us to make this decision. I don't know how in the world we're going to come to an agreement. So I guess Tuesday night we will start making motions and saying yay or no, and because this impact fee needs to get started ASAP. We've been waiting a long time on it. I know the departments have been waiting 20 years on it. I think it's time to push it ahead. So.
So just so the board is aware, this will be if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Richardson, this will be 4 different ordinances whenever, no, it will be one.
I've combined them all into one ordinance.
Perfect. You've been batting that around this week, so
Right.
it is going to be consolidated down, and we'll have that. Does anyone have any other?
I do, Mayor. So for this, the ease of the ordinance, Bruce, is it not better for us to really come up with agreements of a number this evening, so we can put in the ordinance for a vote on Tuesday?
Well, you really can't agree to anything tonight because this is just a workshop.
Understand,
You
but
can make suggestions for what you would like to see and that sort of thing. And we could take that information, maybe come up with some different drafts of what that might be. But obviously, you can't, make a decision tonight.
understand.
Bruce, could we put it on agenda, what, 1, 2, and 3? Have a, like a multiple choice, and then whoever wants to make the motion will make the motion on the highest one, and if it gets a second, we'll vote on it. And if it fails, we'll go to so we go to the other one.
We could come up with some different drafts of what those
That
numbers
way,
might be.
we won't be, locked up, we'll leave here Tuesday with a decision either way, and that way the majority of the board will decide.
And also, I would encourage the board to read the ordinance. I will send it out by email because you have not seen it yet, because I literally just wrote it yesterday and finished it today. But, it's 25 pages long, so it's got a lot of detail to it. So I would definitely encourage you to read through it because there is a lot of information in this ordinance.
I think the emails that we got from Kyle were very informative and spot on, and I certainly do appreciate them. And at first, I had some thoughts about it, but then I just have to go with my gut and say, hey, we need to get this done. It needs to happen. Aggressive or not, I guess we can do it, but as far as breaking it up, you got it written as one ordinance. I think we've kicked that can down the road enough, and I think we need to vote on it.
No, I agree. I don't think that it needs to be postponed any further, and definitely, it's been 20 years and it's long past due. I think that we just need to agree on its price. I think that we all agree it needs to be done. But how those rates will be impacted, I think, is what the thing is that we're gonna have to come to a consensus on. Definitely, it doesn't need to be kicked down the road anymore. I agree with you.
And Bruce, would it be more simplistic to take a look at the single-family detached number and then percentage it down for the others? That's the best way to go?
I mean, I think most people are most concerned about the single-family rates over, your commercial, industrial type rates, because that affects the people who are moving here the most. So yes, we could certainly, look at the single-family, give the rates at different levels for that. And then whatever percentage you pick for the single-family, we would attribute that to the remainder in that same impact fee as well.
And another thing, I don't know if y'all would have discussed it or not, but could we have something that we could start at one level and each year increase?
We have talked about putting that into a fee schedule that we would update on an annual basis at the same time as our budget ordinance. So, when you approve the budget ordinance every year, you're also updating the fee schedule for whatever fees that we've got. So, yes, we would end up putting this into a fee schedule that could be changed on an annual basis if the board chose to do so.
We've also discussed adding in the, indexing it for the construction material market. Adam, what was the name of that specifically?
Construction price index.
The construction price index. So adding that in there as well for indexing.
And that is not currently in this draft, so we'll have to still work on that.
Now, if we do it, whatever we come up with, but talking about the increments, and I'm just throwing numbers out, let's say that we go 50% and then next year we're gonna go 60%. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the people that want to these developers and builders, they see that that's gonna happen, they're gonna come in and get those many permits as they possibly can, and we're gonna lose that revenue. Is that a fair statement?
I wouldn't say you're losing the revenue, you are losing the increase amount.
That's what I mean, you're losing
They're
the
gonna be coming
increase
in
of
early,
it, so.
but they will still be paying, impact fee. And we're going to get that just implementing this, period.
And that's also,
Any future change we make, yeah, we're going to have a run on building permits to some extent.
Right.
you also have, you can place in there when this begins. So that's another thing that can be added into this is you can say whether you want it to begin immediately, whether you want it to begin at the beginning of the following month, or how that functions.
So when we make a motion on Tuesday night, we should say that I'd like to make a motion that we do this at 75% with it beginning immediately.
When we say immediately,
Well, the first of the month or whatever.
well, what it would be, we have to advertise the ordinance after it's approved on second reading. And once it's run in the newspaper, that's when it officially goes into effect.
Okay.
So I would suggest that you do it like the first of the month following whatever month we do the second reading. That way, it's easier for codes to keep up with when they're processing all of this.
But making the motion, that needs to be in the motion.
Currently that line item is blank. It's section 13 on the last page of the document. So
Has
it is.
anybody checked on Smyrna, see what their schedule is?
Well, we have their list. It's on the spreadsheets that Kyle had sent out. Obviously, you've not gotten them yet, but we can get those to you.
And then Murfreesboro also has, they're having a discussion about updating their roads and parks and recs. I've spoke with Mayor McFarland today, and his thinking, while they haven't voted, is probably $1.50 a square foot is where they're going for both of those. So we had that conversation earlier today.
And how does their impact fees being over the last 20 years, have they been consistently rising with everything, or has it been sitting dormant and now it's going up?
That I did not ask.
Okay.
So I know that there was some discussion in the newspaper, I believe last year, whenever they raised their taxes, about addressing impact fees, and this may be a result of that.
I don't think they have impact fees right now, but I'm not 100% on that.
Well, I don't know, I guess it's gonna be a big thing Tuesday, but, I agree with Vice Mayor Brown, we need to do this. And, get it going, get it started, and, show the people of Laverne that we are thinking about them, showing our department heads that, gain from that we're thinking about them, especially the fire department. I don't even think they've ever been involved in impact fees, so you can only imagine how they would feel to get some of that, And yes, I understand it's a big thing, but, we're a small city, we need money like everybody else, so.
But moving on with what Bruce is saying, I think to come up tonight with 3 numbers for 3 options is the way to go, because logistically, Bruce has a lot to do to get the ordinance in position. So for us to come up with three ideas or 3 percentages is the best way to go for a decision for Tuesday night. That way he can write it in, you have option A, B or C. So, my thought would be to do a 30, 40 and 50%. I'll pick some numbers up of that rate for the ordinance to be positioned and decide from there.
I say the 50% is, and I spoke about this last month, is at least what I was thinking, so I would absolutely say yes to the 50% being included in those numbers. What other numbers are we looking for?
Well, like I said, I want it all. I want the department heads to have their stuff. I want the quality homes. I want it all. I think after 20 years, I know I'm not trying to, and I understand your statement about I'm not trying to put it all back in one vote, but I think that the city has waited long enough.
Okay, so with that, then, it looks like we're at 50, 75, and 100. What's your thoughts?
Maybe we need another option. Maybe something less than 50.
Okay, so 40, 50, and 100?
You know, something just popped in my mind that, like everything else, you know, we need to stay competitive with the neighbors in Smyrna. If Smyrna's is 50 and we go to 100, which that's, you know, that's good, but it's kind of like sticker shock on a car. If you hadn't bought a new car in 10 years, and the last car you bought was $21,000, and you go buy a new car today and it's $54,000, sticker shock. The builders are gonna pass the bottom line to the residents anyway. You know, if they pay $2 for 2x4 last year and they pay $10 for 2x4 this year, all they're gonna do is up the price on the house, you know. But, you know, the city needs money and we need to make our fees, you know, reasonable, but I think we need to make it compatible, you know, with Smyrna, you know, because that's who we are in competition with. You know, when Tom goes to these economic things, you know, we in competition with Smyrna, you know, on businesses coming in.
Understand and agree. So with that, I think we're moving more towards, let's see, 40, 50, and 100.
Yeah.
So if we do, let's say, for instance, we do it 40, 50, and 100, on that second go-around, and we get a big developer that comes in and wants to build a bunch of homes and stuff, we're gonna lose 50% of those impact fees on that third year. That's fair to say that?
If we attach it to a fee schedule, though,
They're gonna buy all those permits up and then, you know, but, you know, I mean, I will vote the way I wanna vote, and I'm just giving you my ideals, but I think these department heads, and I think we need to let them know that we're gonna bring it to them. And come budget retreat, when they come up here and want a big machine, no problem.
I think definitely having a fee schedule is something I would be in support of, just because it'll allow us to renew it. You know, building permits they have an expiration date. I think you said it was, I wish Randolph was here so I could verify with him, but I think it was a year. Is that correct, Bruce?
No,
It's
it's
6
6
months.
months.
If
Six
there's no
months.
work being done, it's
So-
6 months.
No builder can build a whole section of homes, huge section of homes in that 6 months. So even if they got the permit and weren't able to complete the building, we haven't lost any revenue. They have lost, actually. So I don't think that they're gonna be more aggressive with their building permits than they can actually build, because then they'd be losing money. So,
And another thing you're looking at, you know, we're up in price on people that don't live here yet. If we was raising taxes 50%, this room would be packed, and the citizens would be raising Cain. Nobody's gonna raise any cane about what we do because the people's not here yet. You know, they might come in and buy a house and say, man, why is this house so high here and it's cheaper in Smyrna? You know, people ain't gonna come and pack this room on the impact fee because they don't live here. But on the other hand, if we raise the taxes 40, 50%, I guarantee you, that I've been here before, they lined out the lobby and out the sidewalk in the parking lot. So, you know, we got a free ride. You know, nobody's gonna complain about it because the people who's actually gonna affect don't live here yet.
So what percentage are you suggesting then?
You know, I'm open, you know, I'm kind of like, I like to be like what Alderman No say. You know, we get 100%, that's gonna be more money to give everybody. You know, but, you know, I think we need to be competitive with Smyrna. That's my opinion. But I'd be happy with anything. You know, it's, you know, I could see the logic on 100%, 75 cents and 50 cents. I was just telling you my thoughts on it, you know, and you know, if we was talking about raising property tax, the people would be here putting out their opinion. but the people we are affecting is not here, you know. So it's gonna be an easy decision to make because this room is not gonna be full of people against it.
The people that we're affecting are people that are wanting quality homes in a quality way, and they don't mind paying a quality price, and they'll move to that neighborhood. The benefits are wonderful for our departments. No, they don't live here yet, but they will. And like I said, them people are not gonna buy those homes. They don't care about Smyrna or Nolensville. They wanna come and live in a nice neighborhood that's with well-built homes, and they will come. I mean, they're fixing to build out there in Smyrna, right there at the end of Walden Road, and that's pretty much Laverne. And you can bet those homes are gonna be nice. They're gonna be nice. And who would not want to come and build another development like that, knowing that they can get a good quality home on a quality lot, and it's gonna be close to shopping and everything. I guess we could all agree to disagree and debate on this, because it's a big to-do, but it needs to be done. It
Yeah, I think we need to do something, that's
needs
for
to be
sure.
done. But in my opinion, we paid the fee, we paid the $50,000. The guy came in, he almost laughed at us for not raising our fees in 20 years. And I think we need to get up. I don't think we need to worry about competing with Smyrna, because people will come here if they want to, whether it's Laverne or Smyrna or Nolensville or whatever. I think they'll come here. I would, if that was in my income range. So,
Any other discussion?
One thing I'd like to clarify, Mayor, I believe in the spreadsheets that Kyle had sent out, we had made the assumption that police and fire would be at 100%. And then we gave the different percentages for parks and for roads. So I think what we will do when we pull this together is we'll still use those same assumptions of the 100% for police and for fire, and then give you the other numbers based on the different percentages for Tuesday night. So I just wanted to clarify that, just because you say we're going to do is just say 50%, we're not going to do 50% of all four of them. It would just be the 50% for parks and 50% for roads, and then the other two would remain at 100. That's just based on the amount that those impact fees would be set at.
I got two questions, the two chiefs might ask. How many policemen are you needing to get up to where you need to be? On
11
your-
right now,
You need 11.
yes.
Well,
many
he's not talking about vacant positions, he's talking about new
Are
positions.
you even?
To what now?
Okay.
He's talking about new positions.
I believe Chief Davis is talking about open positions, is that correct?
Yes.
You're talking about so those are already
If you had
budgeted.
them 11 filled, would you be,
We will be at 70. We have 70 authorized positions. We're
I know,
running.
but, we done a survey a few years ago, and the size of this city, we need what, was
Yeah,
it,
we would
90
need- We
policemen?
would need right at 100 officers.
How many officers you got
It
now?
would be 2.1 officers per 1,000 people
How many officers do you have on the payroll right now?
57.
So we're about 40-something behind, okay. That's what I want to know, thank you.
Now keep in mind, impact fees are not for personnel.
Correct.
Impact fees are for equipment or facilities or
Capital.
things like that.
Capital projects. Yes. Any other questions? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Ms. Felicia.
Good evening, Mayor and Aldermen. Our first item is the Alamo machine for Garland, but I do want you to look in there and see that we want to put this on Gov Deals. If it does not bring the reserve amount, then we want to trade it. They will trade it in, but we want to try to sell it on Gov Deals first, just in case we can get more.
Is this a budgeted item?
No, this is a special item that's been added. And then the other item I have is the rock purchases. It's off state contract, and this is for all departments, because all departments use it. And this is kind of a housekeeping thing that I wanted to make sure we had it all on state contract or something. Any questions on either one of those?
And then just to cover the tractor, there was, it is here for, as far as the budget amendment. It wasn't originally budgeted, but it's one of those where, in the course of this year, that tractor has failed. It's on its last legs if it hasn't died already, and so it needs to be replaced.
It's been patched and patched.
Yes, so if item number 6 on the agenda gets passed Tuesday night, then the budget will be amended for this tractor.
Makes sense.
Thank you, Felicia. Moving on to B, approved professional services agreement with Kimley Horn for the Blair Road West right-of-way preservation. This is looking at taking Blair Road out towards Carruthers, tying in with Carruthers. Any questions on that? Moving on to C, approved professional services agreement with Kimley Horn for Sam Ridley West right-of-way preservation. This would basically tie in with Sam Ridley and hopefully eliminate 2 rather sharp curves that we've had a lot of trouble with on Blair. Give people a better alternative, a safer alternative. Moving on to D, approved contract with Pyro Shows for the Independence Day Celebration Fireworks Show. This is something we do annually. Any questions?
On the, going back to C and B, will that money be paid out of impact, straight impact fees, or will it come out of general fund?
That, I believe, would come out of the general fund.
Were these budgeted, Adam?
Yes.
These were budget, I think they're in the road capital project fund.
They were originally budgeted and removed from the budget. I believe there's sufficient funds in impact fees to cover these. Phyllis knows better than I would, but I think there's enough impact fees to cover this, but that's probably the end of impact fees, at least so we have some more people come in and build something substantial.
Thank you.
Moving on to E, approved renewal of the cooperation with civil law enforcement officials agreement with the Department of the Navy, Naval Surface Warfare Center for equipment to be used by the police department. This is the night vision goggles. I know it doesn't look very clear reading it, but it's night vision goggles that we've discussed for, I believe, SWAT. Any questions? Moving on to F, approved change order number 1 with United Data Technologies Incorporated for the network switch installation services project. This one is a very minor change. If I'm not mistaken, it is 24 cents difference, but we still have to approve the change order.
I don't know about that, Glenn.
Yeah, I got a quarter.
Who come up with that figure?
That would be United. But any questions?
Glenn said I got a quarter.
Hey, we're sent up. G, approved agreement with Target Solutions LLC, DBA, Vector Solutions for Fire Department Asset Tracking Software and Employee Tracking Software. This is basically to be able to track all of our medical equipment, personnel, any of our equipment and personnel. This was not budgeted. It is right around $5,835, but Chief Beasley believes that he has got that in his budget from other expenses that aren't happening. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct, sir.
Any questions on that? And then H, approve amendment C01 for grant contract 2021-C37 with the Greater Nashville Regional Council Senior Center Grant. This is where GNRC is giving us $8,500 in addition to the money that they've already given us for the year. So there's no match to this. This is essentially free money. Any questions? Moving on to new business. First reading ordinance 2020-19, an ordinance to amend fiscal year 2020-2021 general fund budget. And top over here should have a whole list of items here that we originally went back to the capital requests from the planning retreat last year, and then Bruce shot out an email to all of the directors to find out what their current needs are, because what their needs were then could have changed. And so we have come up with this list of items. It impacts everything from the fire department, parks, library, police department, finance, IT, codes, just about everybody is hit. So any questions on this? Okay, moving on to number 2, first reading ordinance 2020-20, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 stormwater fund budget. And this is just where we have more items that would fall under this fund specifically. Any questions? I believe the large item is the mini excavator. Moving on to first reading ordinance 2020-2021, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 water and sewer fund budget. This has got everything in here from, of course, salaries, the equipment for water billing, some desks, some chairs, filing cabinets. Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, but this does include the a pay increase, and this incorporates it all together. So there's a couple things in both of these, or all three of these. One is where it's going to adjust our starting pay for the police department and get that to the state average. At the same time, that causes compression through the department, and so that is resolved through the pay study that we've done. Additionally, with the pay study, we've identified some employees that where they are compared to the market for their wages is extremely off, and that is resolved for those employees. And it does include a 2% pay raise for us, all staff.
What is the state average for law enforcement?
Oh, I looked at this probably a month or two ago. This is, what is it, around $19?
It's right at $19, yeah.
That's the state average.
Right.
So we're getting to that average, and then hopefully we can start to do better. And that's starting off for officers who have not gone through post and gotten their certification through the academy.
With benefits?
Yes.
Okay. I was just curious. I didn't know.
So I know that's a lot all at once, but any questions? Okay, moving on to 13, first reading ordinance 2020-22, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 police impact fee fund budget. And again, this is going right along with that, where a couple of the items were some new police cars. And so utilizing some of the police impact fees for these new vehicles. And this is 5 new vehicles for the police department.
Mayor, we're actually taking 3 of the vehicles out of the impact fee fund, and 2 will be coming out of general fund.
Oh, okay.
Does this price include the lights, sirens, and the
This
stickers?
is complete package, yes.
Yeah. It's the same type of Tahoes that we've had before and that Chief Walker, when he was here, was asking for earlier this year.
That we can actually fit our taller officers in.
Conrad likes the mini cars. Moving on to 14, first reading ordinance 2020-23, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 Parks Capital Budget, Fund Budget. Again, this is tied in with those items. This is looking at the Greenway design and survey where we have spoken about that. This is, I believe, Bruce and I discussed basically using half of the cost for that coming out of the impact fees. And so this would allow us to survey the second phase for the Greenway and design it so that hopefully we can get the Corps of Engineers to give us that, and we can extend it out from the roundabout all the way down to Hurricane Creek boat ramp.
Yippee.
And this is something that has been pretty extensively talked about in the Greenway Committee meetings and also the Park and Recreation meetings. And it was sent out as a survey to the citizens, and the citizens were in high support of it. So this is something that the people want.
Absolutely.
We still got, and I've asked this before, Bruce, we still got a good rapport with the Corps.
Well, we try. I mean,
I know, I'm
like I
just-
said, they change directors
Yes.
every
That
2
makes me
years. So
nervous.
it's like starting over every 2 years.
Yeah.
I think the trouble that we had over the years, they changed the group. We deal with the one group, and then they'll retire or move on, and we keep every 5 or 6 years or 3 years, we have to start over with another group, and that's hard to deal with. You gotta start back from zero.
They probably say the same thing about this board, though.
Might do it.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to 15, Resolution 2020-15, a resolution of the City of Laverne Board of Mayor and Aldermen to declare a property owned by the city to be surplus to the city's needs and directing disposal of the same. You should see in your packet a bunch of different items. We've got some water treatment plant materials. We've got, looks like a couple of vehicles and trailers with Public Works. Any questions on that?
I can see people buying stuff from Public Works, but who buys that kind of stuff, Greg?
Other, smaller municipalities seeking those items. You'd be surprised water plants going, hey, can I buy replacement parts for that? And, oh, there it is on Gov Deals.
Some of
Okay.
that,
It does happen.
some
All
of
right.
that stuff might have been discontinued and they can't find it no more.
That's exactly the case with those, turbid emitters. They're being discontinued and you can't get replacement parts. Well, there, we got some right there.
Any other questions? Moving on to 16, a resolution to authorize the City of Laverne to participate in the Public Entity Partners Property Conservation Matching Grant Program. This is a 50/50 grant, maximum of $10,000. We're looking at replacing some security cameras in buildings and on the communications trailer. Any questions?
This is a 100% grant,
No, it's a 50% grant.
grant.
So, and the maximum grant amount's $10,000. So thankfully, this is not for some high dollar items, being a 50/50. Moving on to number 17, Resolution 2020-17, a resolution in support of an application for a Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation grant. This is as well a 50/50 grant. The total estimated cost of it is $300,000. This is to work on the Brookside Park, which most people just know it as a walking path. And the plans for this would include a playground area, shelter, practice soccer field, along with the walking path. Any questions?
Mayor, that figure may be a little low. I think what's coming in now is around 324. That agenda summary was submitted before, this resolution request, so there's probably a difference on the high side of $24,000.
Is it something in this package that's for more parking down there? I know a few years ago, the neighbors was complaining about cars.
Yes, so there should be in your packet a design, probably near the last page, of the basic layout of the whole park with the additional parking there.
It's page 271 of the packet.
Yeah, you should be able to see it. It's got quite a few, well, yeah, Glenn's gonna zoom in, quite a few parking spots as well as ADA spot. Really adds to that park as a whole. Actually turns it truly into a park instead of just a walking path. Any other questions? Moving on to 18, Resolution 2020-18, a resolution to accept Lakewood subdivision phases 7, 8, 9, and 10. This received a favorable recommendation at the October 27th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. I know there's been some discussion with some of the homeowners in the area that have been kind of impacted by this. Alderman Coates, can you kind of just talk to the board a little bit about that and let us know if that's been either mitigated yet or is it just in process?
Certainly, the planning commission did give a favourable recommendation. The staff, I believe, said that everything's on the punch list has been addressed. Is that correct, Tim? And I've spoken to several homeowners out there, and we've been addressing the issues that everyone's brought up. I think even today, the trees that were falling over onto the adjacent property were being removed, and some bank work had been done where previously some water had been running over the top of the bank. So we've been working hard on this to get this thing organised, and it's moving in the right direction.
Graham, they when you're in the planning commission, they done meet all requirements, everything's done been finalized and done?
Correct.
What about that retention pond?
The retention pond on the back face of that, the last couple of days, they've increased the height of that to stop water running over the top of it.
Is that not the one up by the road?
Uh,
I listen, and the reason I'm asking these questions, just so you'll know, is I watched that planning commission meeting, and a gentleman stood up here and said that that retention pond was for 100-year flood and all this, and there's pictures and videos of that retention pond floating around. That thing overflowed here a month or so, or ever how long it's been, since we had that last big rain. And we didn't get near as much rain then as we did in 2010. And, well, Miss Mary Skinner's place got washed out, and the gentleman was up here talking about how it's supposed to handle all this, and it didn't overflow, it was something else. And I think putting more homes back there is you know, they got, how many of those things did he say he had down in there, 10 or 12 that
12.
goes out, and they didn't handle that. So if they put all them other homes back there, and here comes that stuff again, I can't imagine what it would be like the next time we had that kind of rain. Now, I'm no engineer, but, you know, I can look at pictures and read a map.
Adam, do you want to talk a little bit about that, if you would?
Good evening, Mayor, Board. So the event on September 13th was a 100-year or greater event. We received approximately 8.5 inches of rain in under 24 hours. In the NOAA Atlas 14, you can look it up. That's what they consider a 100-plus year event. The events that happened in 2010 is a 500-year event where we received approximately 17 inches of rain over 48 hours. Basically, the long and short of that is, despite my profession's very best efforts, it is both uneconomical and exceedingly difficult to build a detention pond to hold that amount of water. Now, all that said, in a 100-year event, you know, we had water over near Shreveman, probably 50 feet in various people's house, and that was September 13th. If we get that much water, yeah, you'll have that kind of a issue. you'll have, flooding in places you don't typically have flooding. That's just kind of nature of the beast, because once you get that amount of rainfall over that short a period, we don't control that. We manage it as best we can. So that's really where we're at on that.
Two things I want to say about the 2010 flood. Number one, the lake was too high, the level was too high. Number two, the last 50 years, the Corps hadn't let nobody clean out the creeks and streams. And if we get a 7-8 inch rain, it's gonna go out of the banks, 'cause there's nowhere for the water to go. When the lake is up to summer pool, it's gonna back up. And then when the streams has got debris in it, it's not gonna flow right. So that's two things that's each time, the 2010 and, what hurt, I know a couple places in Smyrna, if the lake was lower enough, they would have never got flooded. And that, you're right, we get 8 or 9, 10 inches of flood, it's nothing that we can do on a 500 or even a 200-year flood.
So I don't disagree with what you're saying. There's a lot more rain to be had. What I don't understand is we've got a retention pond that overflowed with a 100-year flood. So what do? We go in and build more houses to?
So a 100-year flood is we have to assign a probability to how often these events can occur. So a 100-year flood is not theoretically, that should only happen once in 100 years. But that actually just means it's a 1% chance of annual return. So in any given year, there's a 1% chance that a 100-year flood can occur. That's basically how this is all categorized. I had nothing to do with it. It came about in the 70s with FEMA. They said 100-year flood, everybody ran with it, and that's where we're at. So 1% chance of annual return. The difference between a 1% chance of annual return and a 0.2% chance of annual return, which is a 500-year flood, is about 6 inches of rain. Now, if it goes 0.5 inches over that, I think it's 7.54 inches for this area for a 100-year flood or a 1% annual chance of return, that water has to go somewhere. So if we had 8.5, that's an inch of water more than the 100-year flood. It's not a 500, it's not a 100, it's somewhere in betwixt. So as far as, the behavior of the detention pond in this event, it was going to overtop. That's just what it was going to do. That's just how much rain we had. It's unfortunate, and nobody likes it, but even if you had all trees there and everything was perfect and pristine just like it was before, it's still an immense amount of water. And what you lose with the trees is infiltration. They do take up water. That's why we make them build these ponds to offset that. But once you get past an inch, you don't have infiltration. The ground can only get so wet, it only takes so much water. So you're still gonna have sheet flow that would be, an inch deep in places, which would look just like a flood coming at you. So that's kind of the realistic side of all this, is that, would it overtop? Yeah. Did it do what we'd expected it to do? No. That's why we asked Amnon to fix it, because there was some overtopping on the backside where it looked like a skid steer had turned on it and made a small depression. So water seeks its lowest level, the pond filled up, that spot was a little bit lower. That's where it went over on the backside. But it still would have, basically went over the top of it at some point.
Adam, all the punch list items, have they been addressed?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and Alderman Coates, has everything been addressed that you spoke with both the developer and with Mr. Skinner on?
We have, yes.
Okay.
To me, it's almost like building a retention pond that can't really, you talked about scientific facts. That's about all you got to go on. I guess, in my opinion, retention ponds are kind of like sinkholes. sinkholes are sinkholes. I don't never think they can be fixed personally. If I, I think once a sinkhole is developed, you can put all the stuff in the world, ask National Corvette Museum. They'll tell you the same thing, but I hate to see that, I'd hate to see another rain like that and build all them other houses out there. And that would be, that'd be a mess. Plus, let's be realistic, there's enough out there. Those people you can't hardly get by on the roads out there, they're so skinny. I'm not trying to be a troublemaker, I'm just speaking from common sense. So,
Well, there's definitely gonna be another rain. It could be next year or 5 years, but it's gonna be a next rain. What's involved in upping the scale to make them build bigger, instead of being a 100-year flood to go to a 300-year flood? Is that something we could do in-house, or that's state or county?
The city, as to my knowledge, has never improved any developer or HOA's pond, mostly from a liability standpoint, because the city doesn't own them, and we're also not super duper interested
It's
in maintaining them. All that said, the engineer who developed the property basically met our standards. He's done everything within reasonable engineering practice. It was reviewed by a professional engineer that worked for the city. I was not the reviewer for that pond, but I review every other pond in the city. And he's done work here before, and it was designed in a similar standard. The fact they only overtopped a little bit during a 100-year event, plus indicates that the design was at least adequate to our minimum standard. So, could we potentially change our standards to more? Potentially, but building a 500-year pond, you're talking about, if that pond's a half acre to hold a 500-year event, it would be about 5 acres. That's just the difference in magnitude when you're talking about these different flood events. Now, that said, over there it's all rock. The expense of that, we could go into that for days, but really at the end of the day, the city reviewed it, the planning commission approved it, the city engineer at the time approved their construction plans, so they essentially had a vested right to build what they build, and if they built it, they would, get to follow the process.
A lot of them detention ponds, if it's homeowners association owns it, we've got into that problem a lot. Who maintains it? The homeowners association won't do it. The city can't do it, so the people in the subdivision, they're stuck in the middle. A lot of them growed up, and a lot of them would probably work if it was maintained right. I don't know how many in the last 15 years that we've had to deal with. The detention pond was just, wasn't maintained.
And we've started addressing that. We've been basically, through our codes department, going after the pond owners, which is the HOA, to get them to clean it up, which has been somewhat successful.
But a lot of the HOAs is not active. They're on paper, but who do you go after?
That's a question that is beyond my pay grade and belongs to an attorney.
If you know a good one, somebody let me know.
So, a better one than we got.
I was asked one
No
time,
offense.
what's the difference between a good lawyer and a bad lawyer?
Any other questions or discussion on this? Thank you, Adam.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to appoint or remove board and committee members. The first one we have is the Local Emergency Planning Committee. We have 2 terms that are vacant. We have the police department, and staff's recommending that that this be held until a permanent police chief is filled. And then the appointed environmental specialist is no longer with the city's contracted company, and city staff recommends that Mr. Christopher Cunningham be appointed to this position. Next, we have Economic Development Advisory Committee. We have council member position vacant and 1 term vacant. We have, with the appointment of Graham Coates and now the election, now with Graham Coates becoming Alderman Coates, it presented that board with having 2 board members, so as to prevent any issues with any sunshine laws. I have resigned. I've stepped down from that board. I stay in contact with Thomas Broker and Julie Wilson on pretty much a daily basis with what's going on with our economic development. So I would recommend, and this board can discuss it, but that Alderman Coates take over the chairmanship of that board. And then we'll have one board, we'll have one opening still with that board, a citizen, and that will just need to be advertised on Facebook and on Channel 3 so that we can get applicants for that.
Who stepped down off that board?
I did.
Oh, besides you, and you put him in there, then who's the other vacant?
Alderman Coates,
Well, he's gonna take your spot.
hopefully.
Okay, hopefully, and then
But that will open up a spot on the board from where we have, Alderman Coates was on there as a citizen.
oh, okay, I got you. I'm with you now.
Moving on to Library Board, we have the council member position vacant. And so we'll need to appoint someone there. Please note that the council member appointed will not necessarily be the chairman. The municipal code does state Library Board sets its own officers, which would include the chairman position. And then D, Stormwater Appeals and Advisory Committee, we have a council member position vacant on that. And then last but not least, we have, this is just an FYI, it will not be on the agenda for Tuesday night, the Verne Housing Authority. We have one term that is expiring November 30th. It's Patricia Williams McLean. So we will reach out to her to see if she wishes to remain on this board. And good thing with this board, we finally got them meeting. This year was the first time that they have met in the history of the city. So,
COVID, yes.
yes, and then COVID came in, so, but glad to get them going and getting that going. This will be advertised on Channel 3 and on Facebook, so it is just an FYI. We don't have any applicants at this time. With that, we'll move on to Mayor and Alderman comments. Alderman Waldron.
Well, I'm not an alderman yet, but I'll put a comment in. It feels good to be back. Like I say, I've served on this board for 14 years, but it really hadn't changed any. But just glad to be back and see a lot of familiar faces. And I think the 2 years off has done me good. I think I'm coming back in with a clearer mind. Being on the outside looking in, I think it's helped. Just glad to be here and thank everybody.
Alderman Coates.
The impact fees is a big decision for this board, so I hope everyone just takes the time over the next few days to think about it, because it's a very important decision for the city of Laverne.
Alderman No.
I wanted to, can I ask Vice Mayor Brown a question up here?
You can ask me anything, doesn't mean I'm gonna answer.
I know, but
I'm just kidding, I'll answer.
Donna obviously needs somebody on that library board that's smarter, and I'd like to be the chairman of the Greenway if you'd take the library. Just something to think about.
I'll think about that.
Okay, think about it. I just wanted to throw that out there here in public. No, I got nothing to talk about.
Vice Mayor Brown again.
No comments, thank you.
Well, I want to take a moment to thank the Boy Scout Troop 340 and Girl Scout Troops 88 and 63. I was recently asked to come and speak to all of these troops about government, our local government here in the city, and help them get their democracy badges. So got to meet a lot of great kids. Cassidy and Jocelyn were some very fun and interesting young ladies. And it's going to be interesting watching them all all of these scouts all grow and develop and take part in the city as years to come. I do want to congratulate Bruce Rogan, who was named last night as the Veteran of the Year for Rutherford County. He is a Navy veteran, and we are hoping to get him out to our Parade of Lights this year. So hopefully we will be seeing him soon. Also want to thank Cub Scout Pack 340 and Troop 340. They had a flag retirement ceremony this week, and they haven't been able to do that for a while. The last time they did it was a lot of downpour rain, and so that tends to put a damper on fires. So they were able to do that. Miss Betty Merritt was out there, and as was Rolling Thunder and other groups. So it was great to see that going on. Do want to remind everybody that this Saturday there is a drive-through pancake breakfast over at the pavilion here at Bicentennial Park, and they're going from 8 a.m. to 10:30. It's the Boy Scout. They are doing that. And then remind everybody to go ahead and mark your calendars for November 21st. We've got a Sonic car hop to help with the Thanksgiving and the Christmas for kids and seniors fund. So everybody come out to that. I definitely want to encourage the board, come out and car hop with the police and the fire. It's always fun. For some reason, fire always seems to drag behind. Hopefully that'll change this year, but we'll see. With that, I'll call this meeting adjourned.
Adjourned.